Hey, how's it going? I just posted a video just a little while ago, but I wanted to cover a theme of mine when I talk about treason and treasonous actions when it comes to people who are officials in government and those who are in business, as well as the media. So understand something. The reason why I think this, the reason why I keep using the word treason, okay, is because if you're just not an official, if you're not a legitimate business under governmental laws and legislation, then you commit a crime. So organized crime is right in the title. It's a crime, organized crime. Well, the organized crime or just regular criminals are committing crimes. Yet, when governments and legitimate businesses do these exact crimes, but they actually have a much larger impact on much larger negative criminal impacts, which impact people at a fundamental level. And the people are the citizens, whether they are citizens or illegals residing in the country, you're still committing a crime. And so when you have impacts which are negatively harmful on a massive scale, because you have legitimacy, that is treasonous, because you are because the businesses are unofficial parts of the government, because they are often making policies through their lobbyists. They are the ones collecting and they use subsidies, but basically it's a bribe. They go around saying, "Oh, we'll bring you jobs, we'll bring you economic benefits, and so on and so forth." And so we dole out billions of dollars. Well, not we, the politicians and the officials, unelected officials, are doling out billions of the country's citizens, i.e. the government, to bring them benefits that and economic growth and all that doesn't exist, which the burden is placed on the people. It's with every stadium for professional teams, you are expected to eat the cost while these criminals make money. And that's because the politicians, whether they're from local towns, states, cities, or the federal government, you are expected to pay the cost and eat it. And that is a treasonous act. When the benefits don't exist, or they're so limited, but the larger impacts of the burden, the financial, the social, the economical, your ability to pay your rent, your food, your utility costs, all that, that's a treasonous act, because it affects millions upon millions. When you have these all of these actions taken from taken by companies to bribe politicians, and the politicians bribe the companies with your money. That's a treasonous act. When you go and rob somebody, that's a crime. When the politicians and the corporations and the media backing both the politicians and the corporations, they are committing a treasonous act because it affects it affects the entirety of the citizenry. You going robbing a local store does not impact the entire country. Hell, it doesn't even impact the economy. If you do it to a couple of hundred people, it still does not impact the way the treasonous acts of the legitimate impacts millions. And that's the entirety of the country. And in fact, it impacts international levels. It impacts the citizenry of international levels. So, understand, that is the reason why I say it's treason. That is why I say it is a crime level that is treasonous. When the media doesn't tell you about doesn't tell you about climate genocide, eco genocide, when the and climate genocide and eco genocide are hand in hand, when so meaning like the pollution that's sent up into the atmosphere, okay, that is increasing the carbon, as well as the methane, which is a huge contributor to climate genocide. When they're not telling you about the absurd and insane levels of poisoning, or even we all know that taking something that's good for you in massive excess is harmful. So we're talking about this when they don't tell you about a compound in making Teflon, which is a carcinogen, or Monsanto's glyphosate, which is actually more prevalent than the media would even allow. You to know about. When you have the EPA, the FAA, the FCC, all these, when they're not telling you about these stories, about how responsible people, citizens who actually want to do the service, who want to protect the public interest, is being handcuffed and and criminals are being placed so that they can do that. I mean, this involves the CDC. This also involves unofficial places. The American Medical Association. All these. When you have all of this going on, and when you have it goes into the UN, it goes into the IMF, everything. When you have this is a treasonous act. But when you're talking about the UN, when you're talking about the IMF or the World Bank and all those, they are doing it on a global scale. These are the reasons why I use the word treason. Because it goes against the people. Collectively. It brings catastrophic harm to the people. Collectively. It brings catastrophic harm to the planet, which is our only true home. That is treason. When you bring war to make profit for the shareholders of these criminal, treasonous corporations, then you are in fact committing treason. That is why I use the word treason. That is the reason why I keep harping on this. Because the birds, the squirrels, the trees, the waterways, the lands, it's all interconnected. And because we have weather patterns, and because we have animals that traffic, because we have humans that traffic all over the place, and we all get to carry all these things all over the place and deposit it everywhere. When we are using something that we've known about, such as lead pipes or lead lining in pipes, we know that it's not something that's recent. It's something that the Romans knew about. So when you have all this going on, and these treasonous criminals, these catastrophic treasonous criminals, they are in fact doing a metaphorical genocide of all life, including us. That's another reason why I use genocide. That's another reason why I use all these other hyperboles. Why? Because it is in fact catastrophically affecting all of us. And catastrophic means massively high costs to us collectively, globally, as well as the environment, because we are part of the environment. What we do impacts our environment. Therefore, our ability to have a healthy environment where we can multiply, where we can live in relative safety, so that we can have a future. And that is why I use genocide. That is why I use treason. That is why I use all these other terms. Because it is directly related to us. It is a very personal issue for us all. So I want people to start thinking in these terms and understanding what they mean for us. It is not something that is far off. It is not something that doesn't impact us. It impacts us all. Hell, even these shareholders for these criminal organizations called corporations, even the politicians, these criminals with legitimacy, it affects them. And you cannot be in positions, official positions, if you cannot be self-aware of this. If you cannot be responsible with heavy obligation to look out for these and to do something about it in an intelligent, rational, logical way. It is imperative that we have people in positions that think rationally, logically, without emotion, without this childish emotions. This is why when the Constitution was written, it states there must be a secular government. And while they gave religious freedom, they did not. They state emphatically in the Constitution that religion will not play a part. There is nothing in the Constitution about partisanship. There is not in the Constitution about the supremacy of a particular ethnicity. It is written the way it was because they wanted to make sure that we understood that those with political and other legitimacies are held to, accountable. That they knew that that the impacts on through policies, through other things like this, can and will, in fact, impact the entirety of a country, the entirety of nations. That is why it was written the way it was. And that is why they made avenues so that we can amend it. And coming to that, I should point out that there is nothing in the Constitution that does not state that we can make these politicians and these officials resign in the present. So understand, we should be doing that. So when I talk about force, when I talk about force and intolerance, I'm talking the intolerance of people with legitimacy getting away with committing treason, because treason affects us. Treason isn't a political thing. Treason isn't an ideological thing. Treason is something that you do which impacts us in a harmful way, whether socially, physically, emotionally, mentally, economically, or environmentally, ecologically. That is treason. When you do things that impact us to have a future, when you do things that oppress and suppress, when you take away liberty, when you take away justice, when you take away equality in favor of a minority of people with the legitimacy to rob, steal, plunder, murder, rape, pillage, and those are other terms I use. The reason I say all this is because of everything I've just stated. It is a treasonous act when you have official position, when you have legitimacy. And it is incumbent upon those who are obligated, imperative, that you are smarter than the average bear, that you are conscious of the morality, because morality and ethics must be a foundation. You cannot be a policymaker. You cannot be an enforcer, a guardian of common law, common natural law policies and legislation and laws if you are willing to break it, if you are not willing to consider how to fix it, how to keep it running efficiently. you lack the imagination, if you have an agenda, if you have a bias, if you have a supremacy issue, and whether it's supremacy of your economic standing or supremacy of your ethnic priorities or racial priorities, however you want. Ethnics and race, it's basically this same thing. So, or if you have a religious bias, it cannot be tolerated. You must have imagination, you must have integrity, you must have principles, you must have morals, you must have ethics, and those are all in common natural laws. Because they are based on sanity, they are based on rationality, they are based on logic. That is what we expect. That is what we need. That is what we should be getting. But we're not. We are not. When you're in a position like that, you are not running for class president of your school. It is not a popularity game. Politics now, and for a long time, has been a game. You are not, when you are placed there, you are not placed there to play Monopoly or Candyland. When you are in media, you are not in there to play games. When you are the head of when you are in a religious person, you are not, and you're placed in position. You are not there to play games. Life and existence and a future is not a game. Games are what children play. Games are for entertainment and being in a position where you affect the entirety of a country is not a game. So to play politics and the game, you are committing treason. You are a treasonous criminal. We should all collectively expect a level of intelligence, rationality, and sanity, responsibility, obligation, principles, ethics, and morals. Those are supposed to be the superhumans. The ones who have the wherewithal, the drive to know what's best. And what's best for us collectively is not a game. These are all the reasons why I use the word treason, why I use the word genocide, why I use rape, murder, pillaging, plundering, all that. Because when it's done from people with legitimacy, when it's done by people who are on top, when it's done by people with money, or obscene amounts of money, to influence all of this, to pervert it, where it brings catastrophic harm to the many, in the millions upon tens of millions, then it's a treasonous act. We as humans will commit crime. But when the policies, when the laws, when the legislations are made so incredibly unequal, when the burdens and the stresses and the worries and the ideology, these criminal ideologies, is done because of policy, because of legislation, because what the media and the corporations push, which all go against common natural law, thereby self-preservation, thereby going against peace, and helping to create inequality and an injustice. That is treason. Because many of the crimes that people who do not have legitimacy commit is because of the policies. It is because of the social engineering. The negative against common law by media, whether they call themselves news media or they call themselves entertainment media, or through official like judicial or law enforcement. All these, when it's done by religions, when it's done by higher education, when it's done by regulatory agencies, when it's done, okay, we are saying that, please, jail us. We're all in an open air jail. We're all in an open air social program to enrich and give power to the few. That is treasonous. Because it goes against common natural laws and thereby self-preservation for the many. And that, again, is the reason why I use treason. That is the reason why I use genocide. That is the reason why I use pillaging, plundering, murdering, and chaos. Those are the root causes. Thank you for your time. Oh, before I go, I want to endorse a few channels I watch. There's a economist professor. His name is Professor Richard Wolff. He's got a YouTube channel that you can I encourage you to check out, and that is Democracy at Work. And he has some other people that he brings on as guests, and he also goes around and does a lot of talks. So he's been on the media, the mainstream media, and independent media as well. And the other one is, and this is, his name is Mike Papantonio. Sorry, he's a corporate criminal lawyer. He operates a firm, but he also has a show on RT called America's Lawyer, and he works directly with the Ring of Fire, another channel that you can find on YouTube, and they deal with the Ring of Fire deals with political and corporate crime, and the Ring of Fire is part of the TYT network. So, anyways, check out therealnews.com. Please pay close attention to what the Real News talks about. Those are just a few that I would like people to check out. Oh, and there's another one called Non-Compete, and that's NON, and then compete. Uh, that's a very interesting channel. It's an anarchical channel, but it's that's the those are the labels placed. But basically it's talking what Bo is talking about, and what I'm talking about, and many others, including what Professor Richard Wolff is talking about. So, anarcho is a boogeyman term, and I want us to all understand. Anarcho is basically geared towards what everything I've just stated in this video, and the understanding. So, go check them out, and pay attention to them, please. And if I don't get anything else through, perhaps watching those channels that I just talked about will give you more insight into how I came to the to my conclusions. All right, thank you for your time.